Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Selamat datang kembali di
Welcome
IYSTC
back again to the summit that we're having today in 2022. So for the IYSTC summit. And so everybody, so we hope that you're all still enthusiastic and we're going to have a door prize announcement soon for all of you. So to make sure that you're even more enthusiastic because you've had your lunch. And so now let's see how enthusiastic you are. Okay, so with the IYTC for the 2022, so speaking truth to power. So it's easy, inclusive, and it's meaningful. Wow, round of applause, everybody. Okay, so we hope that you can remain enthusiastic. And now we're going to move on to the next session. So this is the second session. So it's the new tricks. The new tricks of the cigarette industry in the future. So before we do that, let's keep moving on. Okay, so we've heard from our influencers, and we've also heard from others as well, and we've heard from Kay, and who else was there? There's two that's coming along. There's two from Universe Line that are going to become along. So who are they? Well, let's have a look at this next video.
Gimana nih? Tapi kita tunggu dulu ya.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's just wait a second. Okay, well, I want to ask everybody first of all. So everyone's back and they're. So what were the impressions and your sense of actually the first session there? So if you can write that in the chat there, so how cigarettes actually damaging the environment. So what's your reaction to that? So let's show your enthusiasm. And so we looked at session 1. So show us what your highlights were. What was your favorite things that you heard earlier, or your favorite speaker, or
Iya, jadi lengkap banget ya di IYSTC ini kita bisa
so it's really great at the summit. So we're able to see that video is really good. So there are 3 episodes there. So you guys need to watch those, okay? So we're going into the second episode. And also we have a various different activities remaining for today. Okay, so I think we are ready with the video. Okay, so let's watch this video together. So Speak Up Generation.
Yang mengemban misi untuk memperbaiki universe yang didominasi industri adiktif rokok. Pamungkas menjelaskan bahwa sejak tahun 1955, pemerintah West First mulai bersikap tegas melawan industri adiksi rokok dengan melarang iklan, promosi, sponsorship rokok, hingga pelarangan rokok di lingkungan publik sebagai upaya melindungi kesehatan masyarakat. Utami menambahkan bahwa masyarakat West First juga ikut melawan bersama pemerintah. Hasil yang dilakukan di West First, industri adiktif rokok berpindah ke industri lain untuk mendapatkan keuntungan dari korban-korban adiksi yang tak berdaya yang juga tak mendapat perlindungan dari negaranya. Mereka berdua terus membeli dalam membantu beroperasinya industri adiktif rokok di industri lain. Indonesia merupakan salah satu universitas di mana industri adiktif rokok sangat leluasa menjadi korban-korbannya.
Wah, ternyata Pamungkas dan
Wow, so Pamungkas
universe Atlanesia tadi ya.
Iya,
And their
ternyata
friend went to
adalah
that universe over there.
penyelamatnya
So, oh,
kebebasan
they're
untuk
actually save
menyelamatkan
you. They're
universe
actually going to
dari
come together
bahaya
and they're going to
tadi
actually
ya.
save the
Makin seru
universe
ya,
from the
tentunya
dangers
tunggu
of
kabarnya.
smoking. Okay,
Penasaran
so that's
sih,
really interesting. So
ngapain ya
I'm
mereka
wondering what's
bikin
going to
game
happen in the
ini?
next
Oke, kita
episode.
tunggu ya.
Mereka akan main lompat tali,
Oh,
Are
aduh.
they,
main
what are they
bola
going to
juga.
do there? Are
Wah,
they going to play
sama-sama kan.
different
Oh, keren
games
itu.
or are they going
Saksikan
to
setelah
cook
yang
food
satu
or
ini.
what
Itu
is
kayaknya
it? So
ide
we'll
permainan
find out.
kreatif deh.
I think that's really
Bikin
creative
penasaran ya.
ideas that you have. I
Boleh
think
dong, besok
you're
ya
really, you can't
teman-teman
wait to do
kita
the
bikin
creative
Iya.
ideas. Okay, so
animasinya.
Tapi
we
kalau
will
sekarang
see the
kita akan
presentation
beranjak ke
tomorrow.
sesi
Okay, but now we're going to
selanjutnya.
go into our next session that we have
Iya,
now.
makanya itu kita harus segera ya
Okay,
kita
that's
akan
why we
belajar
have to
bersama.
move
Sudah
straight into
siap ya
this and we have to
teman-teman
learn together.
semuanya?
Okay, everyone, you're all
Boleh
ready
tulis
for this
reaction.
one? Okay,
Pokoknya
so you
kalau
can
di sini
write your
harus banyak
reactions in the
reaction, harus
chat
banyak
column. So we need to have a
aksennya
lot of
ya.
Karena panitia selalu
reactions. We have to
melirik
have a lot of
gerak-gerik peserta.
activeness here,
Oke,
okay?
gitu ya.
Because we're
Oke,
always looking at what's
baiklah
happening
kalau
with the
gitu kita akan
participants here.
masuk
Okay.
ke sesi
All
kedua.
right, so let's go into
Tipu
the second
baru
session
industri
now. So
rokok
we have the
mengancam
new
masa
tricks of
depan.
the
Tadi
smoking
kita
cigarette
sudah
industry
menyaksikan video
threatening the
Speak Up
future.
Generation.
So we
Semoga
heard the
ini
video
bisa
now to
menjadi
speak
penambah
up
semangat
generation. So
ya
we hope
untuk
that this
belajar
can really add to
bersama.
your
Sekarang
enthusiasm so we
saatnya
can
kita untuk
learn here
kembali duduk
together.
bersama,
So now we're
berdiskusi
gonna
dan
sit down
belajar. Kali
together. We're
ini
gonna
temanya tipu baru
learn
industri
here. So
rokok
the new thing we're looking at
mengancam
now
masa
is the
depan
new tricks of
yang
the
akan dimoderasi
cigarette
oleh
industry
saudara
threatening
Manik
the future.
Margana
And so
Mahendra.
we're going to hear
Manik
from
Margana Mahendra
Manik
sedang aktif di
Margana
Komite
Mahendra,
Nasional
who is a
Pengendalian
moderator here,
Tembakau
and
untuk
he's in the
advokasi
National
terkait dengan
Committee for
cukai
Tobacco
hasil
Control,
tembakau.
and which
Saat
looks at
ini ia juga
tobacco
berada
tax
dalam
as
tim
well. And so
advokasi
now he's in
IYSTC
the
bersama dengan
advocacy team
komunitasnya Tata
from
Muda
the
yang fokus pada isu
IYCTC,
pemberdayaan dan
and it's focused
pelibatan
on
kaum
the issues of
muda. Latar
empowerment and
belakang
the
pendidikannya
engagement
sebagai
of
lulusan
youth.
kesehatan masyarakat
And
dan
he has a
aktivitasnya
background
saat
in
ini
public
membuat
health.
Manik sangat
And right
konsisten
now,
untuk
he's
terus
really
bersuara
consistent in being able to
menyikapi
really
masalah sosial
voice up
masyarakat
and
hingga
talking
saat
about
ini.
social
Langsung
issues
saja kita
to
sambut
date. So now
Manik
let's
Margana
invite
Mahendra.
Manik Margana Mahendra.
Oh, dari tempat lain. Udah mute.
Ya, sebuah produk baru dengan iming-iming elektronik mengklaim dirinya dapat mengurangi bahaya dibandingkan dengan yang konvensional. Sebuah produk
They
baru
claim that the electronic cigarettes can actually do better than the conventional ones. And so they say that it's going to help with consumption and they're going to be moving from the conventional cigarettes to something which is secure. And they claim that they are the new solution. However, is this true? Hello to you all. I am Manik Mahargana Mahendra, and I'm from the Indonesian Youth Council for Tobacco Control, and also a member from the National Committee on Tobacco Control. So today I will moderate our second session of the Indonesian Youth Summit on Tobacco Control. And I would like to say thank you to both of our MCs today. And today we will be discussing the new tricks of the cigarette industry, which is starting in the future. And this is through their new products, that is electronic cigarettes. However, is this actually better or not? And they've actually gained great profits. And so they have introduced these electronic cigarettes to say that it's smoke free and it's going to help people get away from the conventional cigarettes. But the fact is the fact is that it's not true. And so actually research shows that there's chemical substances in these electronic cigarettes. They have nicotine in them, and there's actually greater potential that it's even more dangerous compared to the conventional cigarettes. And that's according to research done in 2020. And so the ads as well and the industry are doing amazing things. And so they're providing misleading information from various different countries just to support the sales of cigarettes in Indonesia. For example, from the New Zealand Health Ministry, and it's seen to be actually it's perceived that that's actually supporting these electronic cigarettes. However, these warnings are that there's various different concerns which are provided by the government in New Zealand and also in the UK as well, that the use of electronic cigarettes are not being sold freely just to those who have never used or smoked cigarettes at all. And also there's a lot of to the players in the industry, they're saying that actually it's not shown that it's actually safe to consume yet these electronic cigarettes. And so it actually really needs to be regulated very strictly. So it's not like what's happening in Indonesia at the moment. So it's being sold and it's being distributed to the youth through influencers who have actually even never been conventional active cigarette smokers. And so I will be discussing this with our speakers, our incredible speakers here today, with their various different backgrounds, which will be very interesting. And in that, we have representative from the government as well here today. So now I have three guests with me, and I will call them here. So we have Bigwanto, who is here. And we have various speakers here. So I'll just check that they're here today. So we have Mohammed Bigwanto, and I will read out a little bit of Mohammed Bigwanto's CV, his biography. Okay, so Mohammed Bigwanto is a writer and a teaching staff of health policy, and he also took health service management in Thailand in 2014, and now is undertaking further studies looking at the health system. At 30 years old, he also became a deputy dean as well. And he's gone up the ranks as well in his deputy deanship as well. And he's really active in the tobacco control issues and also with the Southeast Asia Tobacco Control Alliance since 2015. So he's looking at the intervention of the tobacco industry and new nicotine-based products in Indonesia. And he's also been an independent consultant for the tobacco control leadership program at the Johns Hopkins School of Health. And he is now studying in Europe. So we are welcoming our guest here from Europe. So now let's welcome Mohammed Bigwanto.
Halo, apa kabar Kak Big?
Hi, Big. How you going?
Suaranya masih belum di-mute ya. Bentar kayak.
Oh, you're still on mute, are you? Okay.
Oke, sudah ya.
Okay.
Ya, sudah.
You can hear me? Yes, I can. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Oke, siap. Kak Bigwanto sudah siap untuk.
Okay, are you ready to present to us today? Yeah, I'll share my screen here. Okay, that's fine. Yes, please go ahead. You've got 15 minutes, and then I will give you a reminder when your time's coming to an end. Okay, 15 minutes. Oh, it's not very long, but okay, hopefully I can cover everything within 15 minutes. Okay, so I would like to say thank you to our young youth generation here. Thank you for the invite here. And this is a really incredible event here today. And so I am really thankful for the invite here. Can you see my slides here? Yes, we can. Yeah. Okay, I would like to convey a few things here for our particular session right now. And I think, first of all, I would talk about the various different types of electronic cigarettes that we have on the market at the moment, because the information that I have received from the committee is that there are perhaps there are participants who are here today who are not that familiar with electronic cigarettes. So I will provide you here now with information about, okay, well, what are the electronic cigarettes that we have now on the market. And I would also like to talk about the new products being the tobacco industry developing new products. So why is it that the tobacco industry, why are they developing and why are they selling new products? And what are the practices and the manipulation and the industry intervention that they're doing at the moment throughout this time? And also this also relates to the theme of this presentation. So it's the manipulation of the tobacco industry using new products. So basically, these are the types of electronic cigarettes or the new tobacco products that are actually out there on the market. And so if we even look at the WHO, these are the nicotine delivery system, electronic nicotine delivery system that we can see on the left, and then we have heated tobacco products that we can see on the right. But in our new law, which looks at taxing, so there's two categories, both those which are solid or whether they're liquid nicotine. It's actually the same because they're both actually electronic cigarettes. So I usually call call them electronic cigarettes. But these are the two categories that in Indonesia that we use the same term. So we say electronic or electric cigarettes. And so the characteristic of these are quite different to, are a little bit different to conventional cigarettes. So they're similar to conventional cigarettes, but
itu tidak sebanyak variasi rasa yang ada di rokok elektronik.
so you have much more flavors with electronic cigarettes. So we look at the variation of the flavors. So for the electronic cigarettes, we can see that there's so many flavors for the e-cigarettes, and most of them contain nicotine, and so that's why it contains these dangerous substances, which can actually be dangerous for children as well. And so when e-cigarettes first came into Indonesia, it was that it dominated by those independent companies. So those were companies that were selling those e-cigarettes, and usually it came from China. So now it's changed a little bit. So even though it's still dominated by those Chinese companies and it's some of those e-cigarettes, well, it doesn't mean that those cigarette industry companies are not taking part. So those cigarette companies are also being involved in the e-cigarette industry, and they also have brands that they are selling both in terms of the ends system, but also the heated tobacco products. And so no, we cannot. And so we can no longer differentiate between, oh, well, this is the e-cigarette industry and this is the cigarette industry, because this cigarette industry is actually involved in the e-cigarette industry. And there's various different brands which are available throughout Indonesia. For example, IQOS, that's from Philip Morris International. So that's already being sold in Indonesia. And this is very concerning, in fact. And perhaps you've heard of this before as well. So this is the campaign that's being carried out by Philip Morris, that they are heading to a smoke-free world or unsmoke the world or whatnot. So this is their campaign. They began this in 2019. And so they're basically, quote unquote, saying that they're carrying out a program which is a smoke-free world, and they're actually saying that they have funding foundations which are meant to be the foundation for a smoke-free world. And their reasoning certainly is what they have conveyed to the public is that they want to decrease the risks and all these things. And we hear these things repeatedly over time and time again in the media. But what is the reason that they're trying to unsmoke the world and all that? Well, often we don't hear this being disclosed. But if we actually look into it a bit deeper, what is their reason for? It's actually about selling new products. So I think if you read the previous slide, you might not be that familiar with the Foundation for a Free World, with the companies which relate to the Unsmoke the World and so forth. But if you've seen this billboard, and this is a billboard in Indonesia, so it's a new product, a new tobacco product from Philip Morris, so it's IQOS, and they say it's less harm tobacco, so they're always claiming things like that. And so it's saying tobacco experience without ash, without smoke. And so this is basically their campaign. So it's actually really, in the end, it's about selling a product. And here we can see that it's actually a heated tobacco product. But, well, actually, the reason behind it is actually not that. So why are they selling these new products? Because the prevalence of smokers is actually going down. So we can see from 1990 to 2019. So we can see that there's actually a global trend of going downwards of the prevalence of smokers around the world, and that's a threat for them, because their revenue will automatically decrease. And so they look for a solution. So in the end, it's all about the money. So what we need to understand is that the industry, their interest is profit. So they're trying to make money. And so if we actually look at those trends in terms of cigarette sales, we can see that the gray line there. So we can see it's tending to go down. It did go up in 2021, but it's predicted that these will continue to drop, these figures. And there's a new trend that actually e-cigarettes, so it began in 2016, it started to actually increase in profit. And so it's predicted it will go up and that it will actually get to the same figures of conventional cigarettes in 2050. And so that's the main reason why the cigarette industry and why these other individuals are actually selling these e-cigarettes because their profit from the conventional cigarettes continues to go down. And so they've been looking for a solution to actually get a new stream or source of profit. And so we cannot forget that they lied. They lied under oath before the US Congress. That was in 1994. So they lied and they said that nicotine is not an addictive product. But we understood later that they knew that it was actually an addictive product, and that was actually disclosed from the internal cigarette industry document. And so we cannot continue to be deceived by the industry. And so it turns out, in fact, that so this is their claim. So they're saying that they're actually transforming to create the smoke-free future. And on the right-hand side, you can see that there's a billboard at the same time. And this is so this was not far away from where they actually have an ICOS billboard in Indonesia. So the question is, well, is it true that they're actually heading in the direction of having a smoke-free future when they're still actually selling these conventional cigarettes and at the same time they're selling
They also
this?
Omong kosong semua. Ya, omong kosong karena ujung-ujungnya adalah duit. Ya, semuanya demi kepentingan dapat untung. Ya, dan ini harus kita ketahui bersama. Nah,
this is what we have to understand together. If we have to go back to the past, taking from Ibu Mardia's book from the late Dr. Kartono, this is still relevant. If we would like to disclose and reveal from some tricks done by the cigarette industry trying to manipulate the society, some of them, it is explained over here. I think it is freezing. At that time, the industry is utilizing the cigarette because it's easier to be manipulated. And also they're trying to create the controversy by what? By making the research, as mentioned by Manik, that they are trying to use some examples that makes people believe in that way. And also they are trying to manipulate the data and also the fact using the media, spreading the myth that the farmers and the laborers at the cigarette company and others, even they are robbing the politician. So this is from the old document. This is not just something that is made up. If we are doing if we see in the past that in cigarette industry, we found that there were 3 scientists from Indonesia were taken also because they said that the cigarette pollution is not as dangerous as the pollution from the vehicles. They're even spreading to the media, even they're paying the PR company, just to fight the medical issues and about the health issue. This is one of the example that we reveal of the cigarette document. It is also mentioned that British American Tobacco, they also mentioned in the document the Directorate of Indonesia in this case, they are saying that this is the franchise. So the question is that, what about the new product? The answer is still simple. The way is still the same, but the product new. So what they are transforming here, only transforming the new product to get the double profit. Why do I say so? If we see the way they sell the new product, it's almost the same with the way they sell the previous product. If they are sincere to sell the product only to adult and also the active smoker, Of course, they will not put the cigarette close to the chocolate or the kids' food. So this is the lies, the big lies from them.
Beberapa masyarakat kita percaya dengan
And even our citizens believe about the claim that they are conveyed, that they conveyed. The way they are displaying is almost the same. If we see the association from the electronic cigarettes, who were mentioning about their uh, opinion about that, but we found that the fund that they got is from the cigarette industry.
Menyebabkan prevalensi rokok selalu naik.
So that's why it makes the prevalence of the cigarette is all.
Asosiasinya yang katanya bisa membantu menurunkan prevalensi. Nah, ini dua.
So these are two contradiction. Actually, they are spreading about the coalition about the danger of the cigarette, but they also supported by the cigarette itself. They always mentioning that nicotine is not dangerous. But by the end of the day, we see that the foundation or the supporting funding is from the same company. Even when they make the activities or the event, for example, like chapters, even the chief is also the independent commissioner from the cigarette company. So the funding is the same. So they make as if it is supported by them, but in fact they are making the impact also, the bad impact also. Even they manipulated the information through media, making the claim. Even this is way too far by making the this kind of logo. You know that the motivation of theirs is the money, because if it is about the money, they will do anything. Even they are claiming from the drugs regulation over here. Even there were never regulation about, there were never permission about that. And this is really extraordinary. When they said that this is safer and it is using the institution, even it is not exactly like that. They're just manipulating the information. They said that the nicotine is not dangerous. They are conveying that over and over until the community believe about that. And this tactic, this is not the new thing. When they are selling light mild, for example, only light nicotine cigarette, they said that this is less dangerous. Finally, there are so many people believe that this type of cigarette is less harm. So people believe in that, and then they are repeating it over and over. So please never trap in that lie. Even now in digital era, they are making the website. Even they make it the web. Even they make the website which is dedicated to promote the electronic cigarette.
Didistribusikan di toko-toko vape. Ya, nah, sebelah kiri adalah koalisi yang tadi saya sebut, juga isinya sama, promosi.
So here they are also putting the information about the coalition, and the message is still the same. But turn out that people who are conveying is getting bigger and bigger, like the institution, the academics, the private sectors. Even some of them are from the consumer group. So this is making us worry. Whether BAT or Philip Morris, they are making the website dedicated to promote their electronic product. This is they make it as if journalists or like the scientific journal, but in fact this is the website about their company. They're promoting their products. In new media like social media, they also play influencer like public relation as the person who has the influence and impact to market their product. So this align with their goal.
Banyak dari mereka,
For example,
dari seseorang, juga
like the experience from the students, where did they get the electronic cigarette? It is sometimes from their friends or from the electronic, from the online shop. So this is so sad finding this fact. Even there's no regulation about this. Even I did the research in 2018. It was published in 2019. Besides getting information from other people, internet and media social are the most place used by the students to get the information about the electronic cigarette. And it is also predicted that the sales channels for the tobacco product, it is going higher in online platform. Even we did the study about the online electronic promotion, online tobacco electronic promotion. So we saw that it is getting higher, and we worried about that. So it seems that they're trying to normalize the people to use or to smoke electronic cigarette. Even the shop, it is integrated with a coffee shop or a barber shop. Even one of them is using the brand with doctor. I think this is kind of worrying things. Even they are integrating it with a food product, so it makes people think that this is a normal product that can be consumed by everybody. So this is one of the magazines that makes people think that this is a normal for people to smoke the electronic cigarette. In the past few months, survey was done also in retail shop and also vape shop. The result was worrying. So all the product sold in that shops has so many various tastes. So the taste make them feel addicted. Even 96% allowing them to use their product inside a shop. So this is so sad. Even some of the product doesn't need the ID card to use that. Even the decor butcher also involved in that. I have the list of the influencer.
Produk mereka tuh packagingnya sangat
Even their product packaging is really interesting. Some of them looks like the popcorn, the snacks, and the location is sometimes close from the school. So the point is that if this product is only targeted for the adult, this is just a lie. While we know that there are so many retail products sold in the electronic. So the conclusion is that actually I'm afraid that I am taking more than 15 minutes. So what I found that strategy and manipulation is never changed from time to time. Now they're utilizing the digital technology. It was limited before, but now after social media, they can spread it easier and also edit by. There's no regulation. By the way, we have our speaker also can maybe tell us about that. What we need right now is that regulation, how to limit the sales of the electronic cigarettes, because we know that in 2016 only 1 point some percent using the electronic cigarettes, but in 2018 it is increased increase 11%. So we see that it is going more than 10%. So it's time already that the government has the regulation for this product, and we all together preventing the misinformation. So I guess that's all from me. I hope it will be useful for all of us. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is really interesting and credible. From your presentation, it opens our mind, our insight. Why? Because if you follow, we may not see this cigarette industry naively, because we found that the cigarette industry, they even lied
namun nyatanya ada
by using the
nikotinnya.
oath. They said that the product without the nicotine, even the nicotine, they said that it has no addictive substance. And also they now trying to make the new narration
Menambah masalah baru ya.
which can solve the problem, but in fact it turned out it is bringing the new problem. So that's why we need to understand this more comprehensively. So we hope that there's no lie of the cigarette industry will trap everybody. Thank you very much. Since Mr. Kabik is already mentioning a little about regulation, so that's why this is the right time. I'm also inviting our next speaker, Bapak Sakri from the Ministry of Health. But before that, I would like to introduce you who is Bapak Sakri. Actually, Pak Sakri Sobat Baca SKMMSI. He is actually graduated from Muhammadiyah. Actually, we are from same university, from the public health major. Actually, he were taking his master in IPB, and also right now Mr. Sakri is the coordinating ministry in the Ministry of Health. In 2019 and 2021, he was the head of division in Promkes.
Baik, mungkin kita langsung saja panggil Pak Sakri Sahabat Maja untuk
Mr. Sakri, please, time is yours.
Selamat siang Pak Sakri.
Selamat siang.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sakri. Assalamualaikum. Waalaikumsalam. So, Mr. Okay. Thank you very much for the chance.
Saya izin share menggunakan share screen saya saja ya.
Please allow me to share the screen from my own computer.
Baik, terima kasih.
Right, the time is 15 minutes. I hope this is not over the time. It was interesting that actually about the regulation. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes we think that why does the government just ignoring the cigarette without the regulation? Even the question not only from the people who are pro for control the regulation, but even the factory also talk about that. They said that please be careful, because in the beginning of the electronic cigarette, actually for the control, the government also tried to control that. Government would like to say no. So we hope that there's no regulation, so there's no cigarette. So that's why in the beginning that when we were called from the Ministry of Trade about regulation, we said that no. We said no for the electronic cigarette, because if we make the regulation, so it means some people will think that it is healthy. So even it is having the more burden for the government. But sometimes other ministries, they have different task force with us. Even they are issuing the regulation earlier than us. So even the Ministry of Finance, they also talk about the tax. So in the regulation, even the Ministry of Trade, they are making the regulation about the allowance. So for now, they are making it integrated regulation for some companies. So this effort means that encouraging that this thing need the campaign for encouraging people. So they are while in the beginning we don't want this to come to Indonesia, by the way. But in fact, other ministries are making the regulation. So now, what about us from the health ministry? So this campaign is already turned to something else, maybe from the industry. Why industry is also involving? Because they have the need when they already sign, but and also if the regulation for the control is already signed for the Ministry of Health, it means that they have more power, that they are sure that they are also at they are means that the ministry agree that they are existed in Indonesia. So that's why we don't have regulation. So why we don't have the regulation? So we have to understand that we are afraid that if we make the regulation, people think that this product is allowed to be sold in this country, and people will invest and they will have big publication about their product that can be accepted by community, which is healthy for
So
everyone.
this is just
This
providing
is
you
just
with
for
information
information.
here about the an idea of the different regulations. So I'm going to now continue and look at the figures here. So I'm sure that you guys are bored of this, but I am quite happy to remind you that looking at the figures here of the youth, so it's 75% here. So this is the history of smokers in Indonesia. So they have smoked under the age of 20 years old. And so big, let's just say like big, you and I never smoked, for example. So we'll say, oh, what you can say, oh, when did you start smoking? Oh, 15. Oh, and the other person says, oh, I was 14. So 75% would say like that. So they have a history of actually smoking in their youth, even though you ask them when they're 40 years old. But this is their history. So 75% of the smokers had actually smoked since they were under 20 years old. And this is just too much. So this is not ads focused on adults. So if it's focused on adults, or if you're looking at older people like you'll have different people playing those ads. But the people that you have in the ads are the young people, and they're really strong and fit, and so they'll show they'll show things about they can climb mountains, they can fly, they have really cool cars which have been lowered and all that. So this is the ads that we see. And on the other hand, so the market share for the e-cigarettes. So we can see here in Southeast Asia. So we can see that with the green line, it's Indonesia. With the yellow line, it's Malaysia. And then the blue line, that's the Philippines. So in Malaysia, so we can actually see that it went up in 2015. So the prevalence in Malaysia, they actually had the high climax first in Malaysia. And so what happened over in Malaysia was that there was a movement in various different ways. And so the recent thing that we saw, and we have to be sympathetic to this, is that they had a regulation issued, and this was not predicted, and so it actually banned the birth. So there was a ban on whoever was born from 2005 going up, they're not allowed to smoke. So this is really unique in terms of the regulation. So those born from 2005 onwards were not allowed to smoke. And so it doesn't stop people from producing it. So they're not saying that we're actually banning people from selling cigarettes, but we are saying that who cannot smoke. So if you're born from 2005 and above, you are not allowed to smoke. And so that's really interesting. So now you can create regulations, but it's actually they have very strong campaigning there. But in Malaysia, so they were able to control it quite well. But with us in Indonesia, so with the green line here, so it's slowly but surely it's going up quickly because the market share it's huge over here. And so people are saying, well, why is the government not regulating? So why is it the government is already regulated and trade is actually regulated this? So it's really actually incredible. So We can see that actually using this in Indonesia. And so for the blue line in the Philippines, this is actually being controlled. And they actually have issued a regulation, and Singapore's also issued a regulation on e-cigarettes. So Indonesia, when are we going to be doing this? So we need to actually thoroughly study this, and hopefully, we are hoping that the ideas about how we can actually look at the Starlight Fusion in Malaysia, that we can actually implement this. So this is, we're still trying to put the data together, and so we can actually go in that direction, so that we. So I think that's a really good idea. So this is the development of e-cigarettes in Southeast Asia. And on the other hand, in various different countries such as America, Korea, Hong Kong, Indonesia, so we can look at the study here. So I've actually copied your study over here as well. So I do apologize. It's not going to be bringing about benefits. It's actually getting non-smokers that are now starting to smoke, and those who have stopped smoking, they smoke. And so this is what's happening with teenagers. And so there's no e-cigarettes being used by adults in Indonesia. So please go to the depots, go to the places where they're actually selling these e-cigarettes. So you can stay there one day and you can pay attention who is actually coming to those e-cigarette shops. It's 40 years and below. And it's actually majority is 25 years and below. And so that's even more concerning. And that's what happened in Mojokerto. We had someone who was under 10 years old. And because they have different flavors there, they have melon flavors and so forth. So it's really interesting. So this is what happened this is what's happening. It's a real threat for the youth. And so basically, this is really the entry point for those more permanent conventional cigarettes. And in Poland, it was the same, and in the UK, it was the same. So we heard that with the UK, that the UK has actually supported e-cigarettes. But then what happened at that time? And then we can see that with the most up-to-date data, so from the Risk-Assessed survey, we can see that there's been a 2.7% increase as well. And so this is the most recent data that we have. And we're going to be launching this very soon, but just letting you know that for e-cigarettes, there's been an increase. So if we compare this actually to, we can actually see, even compared to the data, that it's actually gone up by about 3% in terms of the increase. And so both male and female, so it's now 3%. And with the data, it's 2.77. But now the youth population is huge. And so even just a 3% increase, that is actually massive. And so therefore, we need to agree about how we're going to be controlling these e-cigarettes so that we make sure that it just doesn't spread everywhere. And so the health ministry, we continue to do diplomacy and advocacy and so forth. And we tend to always oppose. And so it's basically like, because it's actually, it's like other parties hate us because when we meet up, we're always advocating about this tobacco issue, but it's just that we continue to talk about this. So it's different if we're talking about other matters. And so that's really what happens. So there's these issues even between governments and agencies about putting forward these regulations. And we know as well that there's actually a more positive phenomenon, that there's actually about 40% who have plans to quit smoking. And then we have also others have come to counseling places. So those numbers actually going up. So the numbers of those attending counseling to quit smoking, they've actually increased those figures. And so there is a new market share. And so e-cigarettes is for the market share. Sampurna and Gudangaram have already created this. And so there's the target audience is young smokers. So if we look at the WHO recommendations, that it's clear that the WHO recommendations, they have very clear, they haven't changed their recommendation here, that the electronic nicotine delivery system is actually dangerous for health. And so if there's any information like this that is actually it's going to help you to stop smoking or quit smoking, it's not true. And then we can actually see that studies on overseas in the UK and the US, there are studies which have used the modeling, which is basically computer-based modeling and so forth. But in Indonesia, I can say to you that the efforts of how the industry is actually really working in all aspects. So they go into the religious groups and even they go into the big parties in Indonesia that they've been totally infiltrated, and also the religious groups as well. They had the industry there as well, and they're actually publicizing these new products. And there's actually even an organization that's declared that they are being supported, even though they actually, and they're saying this is safe, this is healthy, this is safe, let's support it. And there's also cooperation with research groups, and they said that they're helping out the government with the research, and they went into the education sector as well. And so academics, and these are famous higher education institutions, because these are their alumni, and it means that they'll become famous and all that. And so that's really where they infiltrate, and they use what other people are doing, and they basically work together with other parties actually to advocate to the government and to say that the governments are behind. And even though actually they're the ones that are actually producing this, and they're saying that this is actually safe, there hasn't actually been the study to show. This is we actually need this study to show us what the actual real results are. Because if we have higher education, or if we have a research body in Indonesia that is actually conducting that hands-on research with the people and not on modeling, then perhaps that can become our baseline data. We don't have that yet in Indonesia, and everything is like you can look at who's actually donating and who's actually supporting the research. It's always them who's behind the donations. So with all the research, higher education institutions, for everything we talked about cigarettes, most of them have been funded by parties associated to the industry. And so it's about making sure that the government regulations can be in line with what they want. And so it's actually there's been 2 agencies that have actually put forward regulations from the government. And with the HTPs, so with the heated tobacco products, all of the forms of the use of tobacco, including HTPs, they are dangerous to health. And so this is what we're really working on with the government at the moment, is with the HTP, because perhaps because it's saying because it's not being smoked, and then you just have to inhale it or whatnot. So they're saying that it's always healthier, but actually it's actually toxic. It's carcinogenic. And so it's the carcinogenic aspects which are really dangerous. And then we have to look at the policy and national regulations. And number 3 here is that because it contains that carcinogenic substances and also everything that relates to that, it needs to be subject and it needs to come under the national regulations, just as the other tobacco products do. So what happens in Indonesia? It is subject to in Indonesia. So here's a regulation that relates. This was actually put out by the Finance Ministry, not the Health Ministry. So this is Law 7 of 2021 in Article 4. It talks about the tobacco product that covers so cigarettes and other types of cigarettes, leaf-made cigarettes and sliced tobacco and electronic cigarettes and other tobacco products that do not use a substitute within them. It means that, okay, well, e-cigarettes actually come under tobacco products. And so e-cigarettes, for example, the HTP, it means that whatever model of e-cigarettes, it actually comes under here, it's actually covered under the tobacco product. So if people say that it's not under, because we don't talk about the ends and we don't talk about the HTP, but both of them actually come under the product of tobacco products. But it's actually clearly already stated here in the law. And then it's made even clearer in the Ministerial Regulation 193 of 2021. So the e-cigarettes and also other tobacco products, they are actually come under the category of tobacco products. So you cannot deny that. So you have to look at the different regulations, and both of them actually talk about these being tobacco products. And so it means that we have these prevailing legislation here for these two types of e-cigarettes. And also in Law 36 of 2009, it says addictive substances as is meant in paragraph 1. So it's talking about addictive substances. So these cover tobacco and products which contain tobacco, whether they be solid or liquid and gas, and they are addictive in nature. So this actually referring to that definition before about that tobacco is actually looks at these two different types of e-cigarette products here. And then so it looks at the production and the distribution and the use of addictive substances. They need to meet the standards or the set requirements. And so what are the regulations that we need to make for this if it's already so clear here? And so how is it regulated? Well, we have the government regulation number 109 of 2012. Whether it's revised or not, then it has to be subject to this. Okay, you've only got a few minutes left. Okay, sorry, I'm very excited about this. Okay, so tobacco has nicotine in it, which is addictive. And so we can see that it actually talks about that these are actually tobacco products. And so they actually have to be subject to these regulations about the smoke-free zone, about how they promote and all that. They have to comply with all that. And what's being revised here is about, because the revisions going forward is about and so even if it's not revised yet, so it actually is stating that they need to be subject to this. And then the challenges in the implementation and in the regulations of this is that in 2035, so certainly our concern and our challenge here is with the youth here, because there's this real competitive nature there. And then we have the development of technology, and then it's so easy for them to do the promotion and the ads. And so this is really important. So this is a positive thing, which they've made negative. And then Indonesia also doesn't have a database about the impact, which is of these e-cigarettes. And so we need to have those academics, and we need to have research bodies that can actually prove in a scientific manner about, we can actually prove that, okay, well, there is an impact from these e-cigarettes. And we can see that in that study there. And so this is actually what we're really waiting for here. And the health ministry is actually wants to work with R&D. And so R&D comes under the National Innovation Research Agency, and it has to be supported by other parties. And then there is no health regulation that's regulating, including the restricting consumption. And then the industry advocacy to the health ministry about regulating the e-cigarette industry. And then there's no unit which actually is here for guaranteeing what's in the liquid or the materials of the e-cigarettes. And actually the political climate, we can't underestimate it, because this is actually also creating the structure, the political structure that can actually support e-cigarettes. And so we're still having issues there. And then we don't have a national task force that can actually implement these regulations. Okay. And then opportunities in e-cigarettes arrangements here. So as I was saying, that we actually have this opportunity. We have the laws here and we have the government regulation. So it's actually quite strong in saying that e-cigarettes are the tobacco product. And then we have the regional regulations about smoke-free zones, but that has become even stronger. And then the revision of the government regulation 109. And then we'll hear about the pros and the cons. And we'll hear about those that have actually been rejecting the revisions. And then the view of the health ministry, the government here, is, so with tobacco products, it has to be subject to and comply with the national policies and regulations. And so they have to be subject to that, and they cannot avoid that. And now at the moment, they're looking for loopholes to make sure that they do not have to be categorized under those particular regulations. And then we have production, distribution, and the use of those have to also follow the provisions of the government regulation. And at the moment, there's been a study which is being done about the revision of policies that relate to tobacco products. So it's not trying to do a model-based study, but with a cohort. And the government cannot work alone. So with we understand we need to make sure that we can do it from our party and not from the industry. And the government, the health ministry will continue to carry out efforts with all different sectors with the government itself about for which area has a jurisdiction for the regulation. So they have to have comprehensive regulations that can be received well. And we need to be able to make sure that we can do what Malaysia did. So say with Indonesia, say if we banned those from 2010 onwards to actually smoke from who were born in 2010. So we can say ban those who were born in 2010 and onwards that they cannot smoke. So I think that would be sufficient. Because basically, if they don't agree to that, then it means that they're actually trying to really corner the youth going forward. And we need to make sure that you can actually create a fortress for yourself and protect yourselves as well. And you need to be a part of the fighters in terms of controlling tobacco control in Indonesia. And so we can influence our friends, our neighbors, and we can actually publicize things, even though the smallest thing that you do, if we have 200 and 300 members, if you're all moving, then we can actually play a part in this. So protect our friends and our family going forward. And then there you can be a young person who is concerned and is critical about tobacco control. And we need to have specific policies here. So let's draft these together, but we need time. So hopefully in 2024, we'll have a prototype of the regulations that can be received by all parties. Okay, so thank you and peace and blessings be upon you all, and the same unto you. Thank you so much. Zachary, thank you so much. It was a really great presentation. So we are able to understand that actually there's a dilemma there for the health ministry in terms of the regulations to do with e-cigarettes. But we certainly also cannot avoid the fact that the health ministry also plays a really big role in this context to be able to, once again, to avoid making sure that the youth are trapped and addicted to cigarettes. And so we're hoping that the young people can actually step forward and can move. And we're really hoping that with the health minister and also we're hoping, well, why? Okay, the health minister can talk about COVID. Well, why not about tobacco control? So with the e-cigarettes, so we're hoping for the health minister to actually talk about things to do with cigarettes and e-cigarettes. Okay, so thank you so much. That's probably all for your session now. Now we will go on to our next speaker. We have our third speaker. And our third speaker here is the member of the Indonesian Youth Council for Tobacco Control. And they are now working at Hasanuddin, and so it's an NGO which is also working on tobacco control. And previously, they were very much involved in research and also as a teaching assistant at the public health faculty at Hasanuddin University. And they're also involved in a lot of advocacy activities and also other public health activities while they're at campus at the university. So now we'll hand over to our next speaker who has actually prepared the findings which they found from the Indonesian Youth Council for Tobacco Control. And once again, this is to really strengthen and to the government and to show the government and to the stakeholders that the young people actually are supporting and we're hoping for greater regulations in Indonesia, particularly in terms of tobacco control. So now we'll hand over to Ishmi. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Oke, selamat siang Kak Ismi.
Good afternoon, Miss Ismi. Good afternoon. Are you ready for your presentation? Please allow me to share screen from my own computer, all right?
Okay. Selamat siang teman-teman.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming in Indonesian Youth Summit on Tobacco Control. Thank you very much for keeping up till this afternoon. This is a big honor for me, representing my friend
kami terkait
IYSTC related to the electronic cigarette.
Oke, saya rasa slide ini sudah
I think this slide, it's been shown few times, and I think you already able to conclude that we are in the situation where the conventional cigarettes still running, but we are now also facing the new challenge about electronic cigarettes. So from that problem, from the issue, we are from 30 organization, community. All of us are the youth. We are doing the investigation and also studies and collecting the data from the field directly, whether the secondary data related to the electronic data. So there are 30 organizations involved in doing this investigation related to the regulation and also the impact of electronic cigarette, and also mapping the stakeholders, who are the relevant stakeholders, pro or cons related to the message of the electronic cigarettes. Basically, we would like to see this study based on the supply chain or the cycle change of this electronic cigarette from the consumers, and also the impact of the consumer itself, or the impact to the environment after they're consuming, and from the sales process and promoting or promotion of the electronic cigarette. And the most important one, that how the regulation works in Indonesia, because this regulation is not only on the impact, but also better it can work in the step of the supply chain of the production of electronic cigarettes from the consumer, and about the sales and also the process. So we did the interview directly to the consumers or to the users. Actually, they are 18 years old, because this is really relevant from the number, because the electronic cigarette smoker, they are consuming in the year really in the age in the really young age, and they are mostly buying the electronic cigarettes from social media, like Instagram, which is really easy to be accessed by the young people, even from the e-commerce, for example, like Tokopedia, which is really easy access by everyone, especially by the teenagers. And here also they admit that the electronic cigarettes really interesting, because it is related to the trend, and also the performance of this electronic cigarettes itself, the look, it is really interesting. So our interview result really relevant with what Mr. Vic and also Mr. Sakri said before, that the strategy of the conventional cigarette and also electronic cigarette, they are just the same, how to attract the market. And how actually the impact of the electronic cigarette, is it the same with the conventional cigarette, which is so far mostly having the study, because it is coming earlier. As from the IYTCTC, we've done the capacity building and also discussion with the expert, whether from the health and also environment. We conclude that the impact of the electronic cigarettes almost the same with the conventional cigarette, because it can disturb the immunity and respiration system, and also can cause the cancer. This fact also really clear for us. This is against the statement of the industry, the statement of the industry, that because they said that electronic cigarette is safer, because we've seen from the journal that electronic cigarettes also have the impact for the respiration system. So what are the substance in the electronic cigarettes? So from the environment, it's been also discussed by Mr. Daniel, by Kolaborasi Bumi. Actually, there are three main components from the electronic cigarettes. First is the battery. Mostly it is made from the plastic. and then the liquid. So when the consumer of the electronic cigarettes, they are using the electronic cigarette, some of them they're still having the liquid, the residue of the liquid which thrown to the environment. So this is dangerous. While we know that nicotine and the liquid actually it has the regulation, it is included to the B3 waste. While it is regulated already in the president regulation and the latest president regulation that it should be thrown in certain way. While we know that environmental activists already understand that Indonesia is the second biggest producer of the waste in the oceans. So if we know that the electronic, whether the consumers of the cigarettes, electronic or conventional, we know that if it is getting bigger or the user is growth, so it will cause or produce more waste in the oceans. If the component is already explained, we know that the battery component, it has the component that makes it exploded, and also it contains a toxic. And beside an electronic cigarette, it also contains a liquid where it has the nicotine and also some the chemistry waste, which is really dangerous. While it should be managed with some patterns of the waste management with the B3, it is not yet well regulated and also not well informed to the public so far. And the last one is the steam, because the aerosol from the electronic cigarette contains aldehyde and also carbon monoxide. As I also mentioned before, regulation of the B3 waste management, there are 7 steps. If you read in the regulation, the latest regulation, so there are 7 steps, which is reducing, management, until the next step. So while for the initiative that we found, that we studied, that there are 51% of the electronic cigarette user, they are just throwing it directly to the dustbin, and 10% directly throwing it to the soil. This is really dangerous because as we know that the component of the electronic cigarette contains the B3 waste, and 46.9% admit that the device of the electronic cigarettes that they are consuming doesn't give any information how to throw or to manage the waste after use. This thing also aligned with the result of our interview in 2 cities, in Malang and Ambon, where the students admit that after consuming the electronic cigarettes, they just throw it in the normal dustbin, in the trash can. While if they just throw it in the normal trash can or dustbin, means it cannot be managed or doesn't have the certain waste management, as I mentioned before. So just imagine if the electronic cigarette devices reused by someone else, it will be dangerous by the users, let alone if it is not done by the expert when they are repairing the electronic cigarette device. It is done in 2 districts and cities in Indonesia, which is Malang and Ambon. Beside interview, we also did the FGD with the activists of the environment. Generally, they agree that electronic cigarette has the which should be managed with the B3 waste management, and they agree that the industry, beside the government, the industry also should involve and also responsible in the waste management after the production of the electronic cigarette. And they also believe that the community or the users of the electronic cigarettes, they are not well informed about the substance or what are the substance contents in the electronic cigarettes, and also about the waste, how to manage the waste properly.
Ini tadi sudah dijelaskan.
And related to the sales, it's been also explained by Mr. Sakri that it is predicted that Indonesia will beat Malaysia after 2021 because the regulation in our country compared to other countries, it is really left behind related to electronic cigarettes. So this projection can be cancelled if the government can make the regulation as soon as possible related to electronic cigarettes or the conventional cigarettes. This slide, I think you've seen it already, that the evolution from the conventional cigarette until the electronic cigarettes, for example, like heater, even the futuristic to IQOS, even it doesn't look like the cigarette, but it's more like to candy, and it is really tempting, yeah, and also attractive to the youth. So whatever the form or the type, just remember these are cigarettes and it contains addictive substance which is really dangerous for our body and for the environment. And how about the promotion? We've been doing also the investigation in some cities that the offline shop is not only existed in Malang but also in Ambon, even a small city, they have also offline shop of the electronic cigarettes. So it means that in other cities, for the sales of electronic cigarettes is getting massive, because we've seen that in average, even the shop is already open about from 2 until 9 years. Some of them, they are selling it separately, whether the liquid and device, or they're selling it and the whole package completely. So they can sell from 2 to 10 electronic cigarettes. So even once in one shop, they can sell from 5 to 70 cigarettes a day. And when they're selling the cigarettes, they also limit the age of the users, which we cannot avoid that. Some of our interviews, we found out that some the kids under the age under 18, they also able to buy the cigarettes, the electronic cigarettes. So even though the seller already give the limitation of the age, but in fact it turned out the kids under the age, they're still using the electronic cigarettes.
Bisa langsung. Sudah habis, bisa langsung silakan.
Oh, sorry, the time is up. Okay, can we go on to the conclusion? So if you know that the offline store is been done massively, and also we know, of course, in the social media, or it is also sold massively. So these are the narration or the information which is spread on the media that electronic cigarettes can be like the alternatives for the conventional cigarettes. So electronic cigarettes can make people who are not the smoker, the people used to be not a smoker, after finding that electronic cigarettes is safer, now making more people smoke. So because the time is limited, this material will be shared to all of you, so you can read the result of our study.
Kita bisa melihat di sini di antara 10
Okay,
negara.
so let's just see between 10 countries in Southeast Asia, Indonesia has the red report. In Indonesia, it has many points which is already regulated in other countries, but Indonesia not yet being regulated. So visually, we Indonesian, this is our position. If we think in the left and the right is the load, means that we have the load on the new products beside the regulation which is not yet strengthened, and we know that our community not yet well informed and educated related to the electronic cigarettes. So it means that we have more burden to the electronic cigarettes in the future. So what can we do? Of course, we can share our role beside the government. We also have the role of the community, of the youth community, whatever the media, as mentioned by Mr. Big, that from the regulation, we also encouraging about the revision of the regulation number 109. We would like the government to revising about regulation from electronic cigarettes and also conventional cigarettes. So, and also for the youth can give the correct information to public, so we don't give any ways for the company or industry to grow, industry of a company of the cigarettes to grow. So I hope this information will be useful for all of us. Thank you very much. Peace be upon you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih. Thank you very much. We think we need to give a big applause to Miss Ismia and also IYCTC. This was a good presentation, and also Mr. Sakri also complaining related to uh, the research and development because they don't have it anymore, so it's kind of a limitation. So that's why we think we don't if we know that we don't have the background as a researcher, but from the presentation from Miss Ismi, that it is really incredible that we can get the information from literature review, literary review, or interview, and even we can get the comparison, because I think this can support information compared before the electronic cigarettes and of post electronic cigarette. We see that there are a big gap. So maybe it can be the resource, the preference, the reference for the governments related to the electronic cigarettes and how to solve it in the future. So let's go to the next session for the Q&A session. So I would like to invite the other two resource persons to join our discussion to be in the same frame with us right now. We will open three questions for all of you who would like to give a question. Just raise your hand, or maybe you would like to type it on the chat box. Yeah, we are
Pak Sakri, apakah sudah bergabung lagi?
Raising your hands so you can ask your questions. The first question, we would like to open the first question to Ms. Bayu Purnamasari. Ms. Bayu Purnamasari, please turn on your mic.
Baik, terima kasih sebelumnya.
All right, thank you very much in advance. Thank you for allowing me to give the question, to raise my question. My name is Bayu Purnamasari. I'm SBH from Tangerang district. I would like
to, who was it before, the one from the health ministry? Sakri.
Kan sebenarnya kan ini tuh
So, well, in fact, the issue that we have with cigarettes has been going on for a long time, and we know the danger of cigarettes.
Sebenarnya upaya apa sih
And we want to know, okay, well, what is being done by the government
mengatasi kasus ini,
in actually tackling this and overcoming this? Because this has actually been going on for a long time. So, does the government, like, how long does the government need to actually deal with this? And when I was in junior high school, I asked my teacher, and I said, well, why is it that the government, why don't they just close down the cigarette factories? And my teacher answered, they said, well, perhaps, and they said, well, if we have the companies are stopped, well, then there will be huge unemployment. And I think I understood that, and I understood my teacher's response to that, that the government, if they were to shut down all of a sudden all of the different cigarette companies, then there would be a great unemployment around. And so, but this has been something which is going on for a long time, and so it's clear that we know that this certainly does harm to the greater public, and so we understand that in trade laws, so the consumer they have the rights, the protection rights. So we understand that, in that trade law, that the consumer, that they have that protection, rights to protection there. And so there's the law there. There's a particular law whereby it says in one of the articles there that creating the system for the protection of consumers, and there's also freedom of information. There's also, they're going to get that access to information as well. So it means that, oh, I've forgotten what I wanted to say here. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that this has been going on for a long time now. So, but why is it that the government, how come they cannot yet overcome this particular and can't tackle this case? So how long will it take for the government to deal with this? That's all my question is. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for your question. So I think that's a really important question. So we've been seeing that this has been going on for decades, perhaps, yes, in Indonesia. And so, yeah, no, that's a good question. So how much longer does the government need? We can ask the Sakari for the new leadership to actually deal with this issue. So thank you very much, Bayu. So this is, we should all be reflecting on this. So this question will be for Sakari here. So thank you, Sakari. Please go ahead if you can answer the question. Thank you. Thank you. It's a really good question. And it's not only this time that you're not the only one that's asked me this, but so thank you very much, Bayu, for your question. And so we do need to be aware that Indonesia is not made up of just one particular area in terms of strengthening Indonesia to make sure that we can advance. We have our economy, we have the infrastructure, we have the economy, and we have health, and we have other areas as well. And so the strength and the robustness of this nation, it is actually reflected from the strength of those different areas being built in synergy. So the cigarette industry that you were asking about, so you said, well, why don't you just close down these industries? Why? How come the government hasn't been able to deal with this particular issue? Well, I think if we're to actually go into that, we need to have a greater knowledge about the actual structure, the political structure of this nation, how it actually works and operates. And so, well, why is that? Because, as the teacher said, well, if you shut down the industry, then all the workers are going to be unemployed. And so, if we shut down the companies, well, then the government won't get that state revenue and so forth. So, therefore, we need to have a balance. We need to have that balance, of course, because indeed the industry it's deeply rooted in Indonesia. And so if we want to get rid of that, the health industry, we would love to get rid of it, the industry. That's what the health minister would love. But when you close it, then you'll have people demonstrating, and the farmers will say, well, how come my tobacco, no one's buying it? And the others will come up to us and say, well, I don't have a job at the factory anymore. What am I going to do? And so who's going to take care of that? So we need to have that balance there. So I think we understand these relate to different areas, and this will actually influence the national economy as well. And the government, when it creates policies, we have to be careful and cautious, and we need to understand where the point of equilibrium is. And so that's why we have to do it slowly. But the issue is that smoking is an addiction. So once you have your first cigarette, then you continue to look for your next cigarette. So they become dependent on it. And so, in addition to these companies that are going to continue looking for profit, well, actually, these cigarettes actually addictive. So people will go looking for the cigarettes themselves. And so it's not as simple as that. For example, the government now is trying to revise that Government Regulation 109, which actually regulates this, so that everyone that's all protected. So it's for the protection of the consumer. This is what you were talking about, and for the protection of the public. So we understand that. We're really trying to work on that, but we're trying to make sure that we can revise this regulation. It's actually not easy. So the regulation in Indonesia about how we actually regulate this. It needs to be that harmonization between the ministries and agencies. Well, how do we do that? So it's not just the health ministry that regulates there and sets it. So we try to set out as great as we can in terms of the public health, but we cannot forget that, okay, well, we have to consult with the economic people, we have to consult with the trade people, we have to consult with those from the Ministry for Economic Affairs or Finance and others. So do they agree with us or not? And so they have a job. So they'll say, oh, don't get rid of my factory, don't shut down my factory. And we want to make sure that, okay, well, we can't have all these people being unemployed. So there's debates like that. So we need to have that real point of balance there in the middle. So it's really unique. It's really specific here, this issue of the cigarette industry. So it's got a really strong political aspects as well. But the health ministry and the government in general, it doesn't mean that we are trying to neglect the security, the safety of all people, but we're trying to fight for that. So we're trying to make sure we can do this revision of the government regulation, but we don't have that. We're not on the same vision. So because it's not just the health ministry, but we are trying as hard as we can. But if the other areas do not agree to it, then on its own, we cannot actually issue that regulation because it's about that finding that balance there. So it's not just about shut down all the factories, or we'd be so happy with that. Oh, shut down all the e-cigarette shops. So initially we were going to be banning the e-cigarette shops, but it turns out we couldn't do that because there's those economic strengths and those have to be protected. So for example, with COVID, so health has been the main consideration, right? And then the impact has been on the economy. So we can look at it on its own. So health, for example, like in dealing with COVID, everything was shut down, and then people were saying, oh, I don't have enough rice left, and I can't go anywhere, I can't work, and I'm hungry. And so if we were to just shut everything down and get rid of the whole disease, then we couldn't keep going on like that. So we had to have that balance there. So that's kind of my response there, that okay, well, it's not easy, but we will continue to try as much as we can. We need to have that balance. And so that decision making is, we need to make sure that national economic growth, we have to make sure we continue to have that national economic growth. So that's my response there, Bayu. So thank you very much, Sakri, for your question. Does that answer your question there, Bayu?
Kan gini ya Pak, kan kata Bapak itu kan
Because
kita
you
kan
were
butuh
saying there
keseimbangan.
that we need to have a
Dan
balance,
padahal kan
right?
sudah jelas-jelas
Well, actually, it's so
di
clear already,
negara
right?
kita itu kan
That
udah
in
punya
our
undang-undang
country,
yang
we already
jelas-jelas
have the
kalau
law that
rokok itu
clearly
memiliki
says that
kandungan yang
cigarettes that
sangat berbahaya dan
contains
merugikan
really dangerous materials and
masyarakat
substances, and
gitu.
actually
Padahal
it
kan kita kan
harms
punya
the
dasar
community.
hukum.
And
Kenapa
we have that legal
pemerintah nggak
basis
bisa
and that legal
bersikap
ground. So, well,
tegas
how come
untuk
the government
menangani
cannot
kasus
be
ini?
firm in actually really dealing with this?
Oke.
Ya, makasih. Saya
Yeah,
respon.
thank you. I'll respond to that again. That is right. That in our law 36, so it's about control. So this word control, which is, it's not banning. So that's in law 36. And then on the other hand, and there's also laws protecting the industry as well. So we need to make sure that, understand that we are actually really fighting for this. That's why we're having the revision of the government regulation about 109, and that's actually initiated by the health ministry. And so it's about how we should be regulating e-cigarettes and how we have to limit ads, so they can't just be everywhere, and how to also restrict sales as well. And so when we want to actually revise this regulation, we need to have the agreement of other ministries, but it's not easy. And so they're all fighting for their own interests. We need to have that balance there. So we need to be able to make a decision that doesn't push on other areas, but we're going to hope that we can have that real synergy there. So this needs to be understood, that it's not just the one sector about building this state and nation. So it's various different sectors. So we need to have that balance.
Banyak Pak Sakti, saya rasa udah cukup.
Okay, thank you. So I think that's all good for the questions from Bayu, but I would just like to just get the perspective from Bayu. So I think perhaps still at school. So I think you have a really great concern there, Bayu, because this is not about how to get rid of the cigarette factories or whatever, but the question that you ask your teachers is the same thing that I asked my teacher. And I said, well, how many more years do I have to ask the teacher? And my teacher gives me the same response. So it doesn't mean that we are not getting anywhere. It's Indonesia just not getting anywhere. But this is the era where Indonesia needs to be advancing, right? Okay, so let's keep going for the next question. So Zachary, we still have a few. I think we have there's a lot of questions in this session here.
Ialah dari Zakwan, 9 cm.
The next question is from Zakwan. So Zakwan here is asking in the chat. Yeah, I'll read it out. So perhaps Big Wanto, I think you can actually ask, or maybe ISMI can also respond to this one. So I would like to ask about the promotions that I often hear about e-cigarettes. Are they not dangerous for your lungs because they use that water vapor, so it's not smoke? So what is produced from the e-cigarettes, is it true that it has a long-term impact, specifically on women for pregnancy, compared to say conventional cigarettes? Because a lot of my friends use vapes and e-cigarettes, and they say that it's not dangerous. So please, Big and Ishmi, if you would like to respond to that, thank you.
Terima kasih Mas Manik atas pertanyaannya.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Sorry about the noise. Okay, so this is really interesting. So I think as we heard from ISMI before, that there's various different journals that actually prove that this product it's not dangerous. It is dangerous, but because there's so much information being freely shared and it's not being controlled, so now we're not regulating the ads and so forth from the e-cigarettes, so that misinformation is just being so much misinformation is being shared, so that the people just believe it. So that's the issue actually. So my recommendation, my advice here would be for those of you who are facing issues like this. For example, you have a friend
Tidak berbahaya, tinggal
who says that it's not dangerous, so you can just send an article, or for example, so with the Food Regulatory Authority, or the BPOM. So I think they have, I think it's called the 9 of the 10 dangers of e-cigarettes. So you can actually send that to your friends. So you can copy that and send that to your friends. These good articles from because BPOM is the authority that have that understanding and that knowledge of this particular product. So who else should we believe in addition to apart from the BPOM? And I think also on Facebook and also on some social media and other media, there's representatives there that have talked about how e-cigarettes are actually dangerous. So you just need to send that through. So they're my tips. So rather than you and your friends having a long debate about everything, so just forward those kind of articles. And if you're talking about the long-term effects, so that's what at the moment is being researched at the moment, because there hasn't been enough time to actually really look at the long-term impacts of this, because just in Indonesia alone, things with e-cigarettes only really started happening in 2014, 2015. So it hasn't even been 10 years yet. And so if we would like to understand the long-term impacts of e-cigarettes, we still need more time. But there's already a lot of evidence of the short-term impacts. So they're my tips in dealing with those kind of cases. Okay, so sharing the truth. Okay, and it's me. Would you like to add to that? Yes. And so for us from the IYCTC, we've actually shown what some of the myths out there on mainstream media and also on websites, and we're saying, okay, the narratives that they're showing, is it a fact or is it a myth? And so I was also saying some tips for those of you out there, so that when you receive information or whatever it might be on social media or on websites, even if it's in a journal, so it's better that actually you have a look at that first. Okay, well, look at the foundation. Okay, find out what that foundation is from, so that you can actually see, because most of the industry that actually, it's usually the industry which is playing, is the play behind it. So they're the ones who are funding this research, or there's perhaps information about e-cigarettes and saying that, this is safer than other products. Well, whereas actually, well, why do we have to take the safer position? If we need to really take the safest position, everyone. So what you need to do is, you can do those kind of things that I was saying. And then also in addition to, so with research, and if we were talking about the long-term impacts, there has been some studies. The studies are limited in terms of e-cigarettes because it's a new product. And so in this particular state, so us from IYCTC, we want to invite researchers or young people who are interested to be a researcher. Together we can actually collaborate starting now, so we can actually carry out research, and also we can carry out further in-depth studies about the impacts of e-cigarettes in terms of the health of it, and also in terms of the environmental impacts. And that can actually help our government in actually strengthening regulations regarding e-cigarettes. That's all from me, Manik. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. It's me, and that's really important. Yeah. So Sakri, hopefully we can actually take that together to the health ministry, and hopefully we can actually share that with the other ministries. Okay, the final question here is from Anya Kisara for Sakri. So with the issue of tobacco control, why is Indonesia so far behind other countries in terms of tobacco control? And can you improve the anti-smoking campaign and make it more fun compared to, say, the smoking campaign and ads out there? Because there really is a lot out there. Okay. Okay, so thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you guys for really being concerned about this. And so your concern really in terms of the consumption of cigarettes and tobacco control here. So it's as though it's as though the health ministry hasn't done anything. So have you ever looked at government regulation 109? So basically there it's actually regulating tobacco control there. And so at the moment the initiative, it was actually the health ministry that is really fighting for this. And that was from 2017. We want to revise that because within that, it doesn't contain e-cigarettes. So we need to revise that and make sure that we can have e-cigarettes there, so we can actually regulate that. And we have to make sure that we get the government to endorse that. And so this has been initiated since 2017, and then it's been going on for 3 years. And eventually, they said that this has not yet met their requisites. That's been given to the highest levels of leadership. And so it's being looked at again by the academics. It's being worked on again. And so it's about adding the e-cigarettes and about the consumption of e-cigarettes. And so that needs to be really strengthened in terms of its academic text there. And so we've been doing that for many years. So it's not that we haven't been fighting for this, but as I said before, it's about trying to revise the regulation. It's not just us signing off on that, but it's actually we need these signing off of the other areas as well. We have to be on the same page. We have to be on the same boat on this thing. And so the health ministry, we've been fighting for this for 2017 to make sure that we can get this regulation revised so that when we have e-cigarettes in there, then we can control it. But we still have been struggling till today to get that in the regulation. And so we have to get the academic text again. So we're really trying to push this. And so it's not as easy as that, but the government and the health ministry, we continue to struggle and fight for this. And so if you say, well, until when? And well, we're going to make sure that we get it all right and happening. And we won't stop at that. And so we will not give up, and we will make sure that, okay, what needs being revision, and we'll revise that. And so what we're trying to do at the moment is we're trying to do a roadshow to those particular ministries and agencies who are being rejecting this, because we have to say it's about improving health and so forth. And so what the government is doing, so the campaign, the question about, well, why is the government not doing a huge campaign about this? Well, with the campaign, okay, if that government regulation 109, if it's once it's signed off on, then it's really easy. We can work on the mass media, and we can say that, well, we can ban ads here and there, or we could, on the internet, on your phone, we say you cannot have ads there. So that's government regulation 109. Because of that, lots of people are actually fighting against it, and we continue to fight for that. So we will not give up. So it's still in process, and that's the government's efforts, because it will have a national impact. It will be comprehensive. And with the Ministry of Communications and Informatics, we can come and help us do this, controlling this, because the IT, that's really the communications ministry that covers that. And so we need to make sure that the regulations there so that we can have the communications and informatics is running well. And you need to understand that those ads on the TV, for example, so when you have a 15-second ad, it's about 40 to 45 million rupiah for a 15-second ad. So if we have to actually fight against them and compete against them, well, we will probably lose all our ammunition there, because the government can, and we have
done by the Ministry of Health related to the advertisement. So it says that the Ministry of Health
Ingat bahwa swasta, industri besar itu mengiklankan
is
rokok.
blamed. So in fact, that the cigarette industry, they have 7.7 billion rupees budget for the advertisement. But in fact, the industry,
Kantongnya tadi, isi kantongnya 7,7 triliun untuk hanya untuk iklan.
they
Di luar
have 7.7
pemerintah yang nggak akan mungkin bisa menyaingi itu. Dan kemudian yang lebih masif adalah teknologi
billion
informasi dan teknologi
for the
informasi
advertisement.
juga ada undang-undang yang lain. Ada undang-undang penyiaran, ada undang-undang ITE, ada undang-undang pers dan sebagainya. Ini yang harus kita sinergiskan. Si undang-undang itu juga menyatakan tidak dilarang. Jadi bukan tergantung dari undang-undang kesehatan. Inilah masalah iklan tadi. Jadi kalau kita berjuang terus kita bersaing dengan iklan gembur-gemburan, kalau mau.
So if we would like to fight about the advertisement, so we still have TBC, we still have HIV, we still have other diseases to be taken care of. So we don't only focus on the cigarettes. So it's not just about that. So whether cigarette is not a priority, yes, it is the priority, because this is one of the disease which is really dangerous. So the deficit, because the disease still coming from the cigarette consumptions. So by the end of this, the only regulation that we can raise is only regulation number 109. So it also will be encouraged, will be empowered. But in fact, the revise of 109, regulation number 109, is not yet being agreed. You think that the government is not fighting for it? We are fighting for it. So because this is for the sake of ours, we are now still doing the positive thing to protect everybody in Indonesia, to get the climate which is really healthy for everyone, and make sure that everyone can have a good quality of life. But we cannot work by ourselves. So the point is that if we don't like the cigarette, if we don't want the cigarette having the impact, please just don't smoke. Please just don't smoke, because if we don't smoke anymore, we can stop the industry or the business of the cigarettes. So we are now still fighting for the revision of the President Regulation number 109. So please understand, if we talk about the cigarette, it will never end, because there is also cons. It's just a debatable things. We are just tired of debating this. No, we don't have to debate. We just need to support to end this. Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sakri. Thank you very much. Because the limitation of time, we cannot open any more question and answer session. I think the session for now is really attractive. Yeah. So because everyone really interested to ask a question. But what we need is the support of the youth. As Mr. Sakri said before, that we need to support. But the support is not just given voluntarily, but we have really big hope, have big expectation. So we hope that you can help us with the better regulation. So I guess that's all for the session in this afternoon. Thank you very much for Mr. Bigwanto, Mr. Sakri, and Ms. Ismi for your presentation. Your presentation was wonderful, but we hope we will have better regulation and policy after this. Before closing, I would like to give the wrap up from the second session. Of course, we cannot work by ourselves. Everyone must work hand in hand together. We can make bigger impact, whether from the government, society, and other institutions. That's why Indonesian Youth Summit on Tobacco Control, we are bringing those ideas to fight for Indonesia, for better Indonesia. So I would like to remind the youth in Indonesia, please don't forget to tell the truth for everyone. So myself as moderator, give the floor back to the host. I would like to give the floor back to Miss Rahma to give the recommendation to the government and also to the society in Indonesia.
Baik, terima kasih
Thank you very much, Ms. Manik Magahendra. It was really incredible. I am on behalf of the team 4. I would like to read the conclusion of recommendation from the second discussion. The first one, the conclusion is that it was spread the two new products in the society right now, whether in the electronic nicotine delivery system or ANS or heated tobacco or tobacco product or HTP. Both of them actually are electronic cigarettes. Just for your information. Secondly, the cigarette industry manipulating community to uh, to think that this is the end of the smoke free this is the end of the the cigarette, or it says that it is the smoke free world, so it is being the alternative,
adiksi rokok elektronik.
distracting people, and then they change shifting from the conventional to electronic, and even the cigarette industry, they are making the new data to get the safer place and sell the new product of theirs, which is the electronic cigarette. And from the Mr. Sakri, from Ministry of Health, that electronic cigarette, it has the potential as the gate for the youth to use or to smoke the cigarette and normalize the smoking attitude in the society. Secondly, WHO is not recommending that the ants is dangerous. Even the WHO is not recommending ants as the tools to stop smoking. The third one, the tobacco industry or the cigarette industry, they are doing the lobby to the Ministry of Health to make the regulation for the electronic cigarette. It should be the concern of the government. The third one from the Miss Ismi is that there are 30 organizations which is included in IYCT to discuss and to study about the supply and change in a consumer about the electronic cigarette, whether from the information, regulation, and also the impact from the electronic cigarette. And then they were doing the interview to the children or the kids under 18. Normally, they are buying the electronic cigarettes in the social media and e-commerce, like on Instagram and Tokopedia. And from the result of FGD or IYCTC, they agreed that electronic cigarettes should be regulated in Indonesia. In fact, Indonesia has the red report for electronic cigarettes. And then the fifth one, electronic cigarettes, they have the same way of marketing. So don't be lied. And then even in a big city in Malang, they have offline store. And even the small city like Ambon, they also have this offline store. Even in each offline store, they have at least 5 products each day. So we have to be careful on that. And then the last one, we have to support the role of the government. One of them is giving the support of the revise of the present regulation of number 109 and spreading the information about the danger of the electronic cigarettes to the community. From the conclusion that we taken note, we have the recommendation of firstly to the government is that first the government should support and also to take in part of the health of the community and of the youth, so they can so they can avoid the impact of the electronic cigarette or the conventional cigarette. And the government also should strengthen the control of the addictive product, whether the conventional cigarette or electronic cigarettes, to reduce the number of prevalence of the kids in Indonesia. And number 3, the government may not be influenced by any kind of intervention to the government of Indonesia, directly or indirectly. And then recommendation that we have to the public, for all of you, for the participants today, firstly is that we hope that we realize that electronic cigarettes is causing the same problem, which having the bad impact for the health. It doesn't have any difference with the conventional cigarettes. And secondly, we wish that the participants and the public is supporting that we should protect the youth from the addiction of the electronic or conventional cigarettes. So that's all the recommendation from the team 4, IYCTC, and also from the committee. We hope it can be supported by all the participants today. That's all from me. I will give the floor back to MC.
Kak.
Baik, terima kasih banyak
All
Kak
right,
Rama.
thank you very much, Mr. Rama. And also thank you to all the speakers in the second session. It was really great. And also for the research person and also team 4 to give the recommendation. Hats off to the people who were raising the question. You were really active. Yeah. We hope that they can get one spot of the door prize. And also it can be the spirit for others to raise their issue, right? Speaking truth to power. You know that we are directly to power. Even though it is virtually, but they have really they have they are on fire in raising the question, not only raising the question on Zoom, but also on the chat box. Okay, what's next? I think actually we already have a guest, Miss S. Nina. Actually, we will listen to her opinion. So let's just go on to the next session that we will study together, listening to the Esnina from the community S Warrior.
Iya, nampaknya saya sangat terlalu bersemangat ya. Wah, ini
Because I was too excited, yeah. So Esnina is already on our screen. Good afternoon, Esnina. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone.
bagaimana kabarnya Nina?
So how are you, Esnina? I'm great.
Alhamdulillah. Bagaimana perasaannya setelah menyimak?
So how do you feel after listening the first session and the second session until this afternoon? I was really grateful because I get new information, new knowledge, and also new experiences from all the resources. I mean, the speakers. It was really great and giving me the motivation. So now let's just listen, yeah, from S. Nina about the first session and second session. Please, time is yours. Thank you very much. Actually, our name is the same, yeah, Nina. So, in my opinion, as the environmental activist, I'm from River Warrior. So our aim is that making our river free from plastic. So as the activist who is always giving the campaign, raising the awareness to the community, especially to the youth, to reduce the single-use plastic. And when I was invited at the first time at the IYCTC, which focus on the cigarette and also tobacco control, I was surprised because I was wondering what is the relationship between the tobacco and also the plastic. Because in the beginning, I was just thinking about I was learning about tobacco just in the surface. But after following this IYCTC event, now I get new knowledge that in fact the cigarette and also the plastic, they have a relation to each other. They have many things to do to each other. So in fact that the cigarette has really bad impact to our environment. And me myself, I see it in the real life that there are many people just think that the cigarette waste just organic waste, so they don't feel guilty or they don't think about it, so they just like throwing it anywhere. So you can see that there are so many cigarette butts everywhere. Even when I did the beach cleaner or beach cleanup or the river cleanup, so we found that many cigarette butts there, even less than 5 seconds or even less than 1 minute. I mean, even less than 1 minute, less than 5 minutes, I found one bottle of cigarette butt. So this is the big concern for us, and the waste still looks the same as a whole. It's not yet being decayed or destroyed. So as actually I write on my book actually from Miss Agustina from the World Cleanup Day. We She found that she was doing many activities like beach cleanup or cleaning the beach. Then they found there are so many cigarette butts. The number of cigarette butts that is destroying our earth every year is 4.3 4.5 trillion. So just imagine, yeah, every year the waste of the cigarette butts if we collect it from all over the world, so it can fill a whole big Bantar Gobang landfill. So the cigarette butts will really produce so many waste. So since the beginning of the cigarette making, actually it is already making many impact to the environment, whether the process or creating the cigarette, and also releasing the liquid waste, which is not managed well. So, as mentioned by Ms. Sarah and also Mr. Jalal, that there were no responsibilities from the industry of the cigarettes. In fact, that the cigarette industry, they're just manipulating us that cigarette is eco-friendly. So it can be destroyed or decayed directly on our environment or in the soil. In fact, it's not. It's even making disaster to our environment. It is destroying the life of the people, whether for the animals, whether the river ecosystem, the ocean ecosystem, and the soil, and it kills the plant, also polluting the air or the water. And the cigarette waste issue is really serious. We have to be aware. Maybe we don't feel the impact for now. Maybe the people who are addicted to the cigarette, maybe they don't feel the impact for now, but they will feel the impact. They will experience the impact when they are growing up or when they are old. So as for now, as the youth who understand, as the agent of change, we have to work hand in hand that actually they are not the crime, they are the victims. So let's work together, let's collaborate, let's take them out from those way, and also remind them, don't use a cigarette anymore, don't smoke anymore. And also I was also shocked, I am shocked also that that the cigarette also contains plastic, which is cellulose acetate, which is used to make the like the photo. Also, it's almost the same. It means that the plastic will release microplastic. Microplastic size is really small. We cannot see by our naked eyes, and also it can be easily inhaled, or maybe it can come to our respiration system and even the food. So there was also the research. So there is the research on the our body. It is already polluted because we
And according to
consume
the
that.
latest
Even for
research,
the
that microplastic has been found in our bloodstream. So it has been found in our stomach, in our lungs. And so we need, what other warnings do we need to invite others to make sure that they don't use cigarettes? So it really is difficult to actually educate addicts, because the thing is that they don't feel that instant impact of it. And so we have to continue to consistently, we have to remind them, we have to be patient, we have to be consistent and remind them in those using pleasant manners. So as young people, we have social media, so we can actually really leverage and use our Instagram and our TikTok and whatnot. So we can use that to actually provide information on the dangers of smoking. So I'm really pleased that we have IYCTC that has together been inviting the youth together to change, so we can actually change our way of life. So previously, say we were addicted to smoking, and then having known the dangers of smoking and also the impact on our environment for our health and on animals as well that are living together with us. So when we understand that, okay, well, smoking is a disaster, and then I know and I understand that you'll be able to stop using cigarettes. And so don't even try, because you know the impacts of it. And so even though smoking, so conventional cigarettes, so the cigarette industry has been manipulating our perspective, the perspective of the public, by inviting us to go from conventional cigarettes to e-cigarettes. And so these e-cigarettes, so they're expensive. It's really, and actually they create, they pollute our environment as well. And so, they're going to, of course, they cause waste and so forth. And so this really, we have to really think about this. The industry has to think about this. So it's not just about thinking about the profit, not just about thinking about the money and their revenue, but they have to be responsible for the waste that they are actually producing, and they have to actually gather that waste. So they have to create drop boxes for those actual e-cigarettes, so that they don't just go everywhere in the environment, and so they don't ruin our environment and ruin our health as well. So this e-cigarettes, so they're not the solution. They are not the solution that we need, but they're actually going to add to the burden. They're going to actually add to the problem that we have. And so we as the youth, let's be critical, so that we are not conned and not deceived by these ads, by these tricks, so that we're not caught in by these tricks from the industry itself. So that we together, we have to be critical. We need to learn more. We have to remain enthusiastic. We have to reduce, and we have to stop using cigarettes. So even though, whether they be conventional cigarettes and also e-cigarettes, so together we need to invite and encourage other young people to stop using cigarettes, and so we need to educate them so that they do not use cigarettes. And so we as young people, we have the right, that we have the right to live in a healthy and clean environment. And we as young people, our voice of the youth, we are the voice that the public is listening to. And so let's act together, let's let people know, the industry know, that they should stop doing what they're doing, and that together we can actually collaborate and we can work together with the government and with the youth, so that we can actually close the tap of production of the cigarette industry. So thank you, and I apologize for any misgivings, and thank you so much, and peace and blessings be upon you all. And so that was our special guest speaker today. So I think she's really brought together everything that we heard from the keynote speech, from others as well. So I really agree with what Nina was saying, that smokers are actually the victims. So let's not distance ourselves from them, or let's not make them our enemy. But actually, we have to come beside them, and so that they can actually leave their comfort zone, because get out of that addictive zone, so that desire to actually continue to smoke, it's an ongoing thing. But it doesn't mean that they cannot quit. Everybody can quit. So as long as you want to try. Okay, so thank you so much, Nina. So you are a really inspiring young person, and so imagine, so only 15 years old, but she can talk like that. It's amazing. So, and we also really appreciate our young people who are here together with us in this forum. And so you guys are also able to to speak out, and you have taken part in session 1 and session 2. So don't forget. Yeah, I'm going to give you a clue. So I'm going to ask you for it tomorrow. So I want you to recap what we learned today, so you can actually read over your notes because it was really useful. And also, our summit is actually being shown on Instagram Live at the Instagram Live under the channel of IYCTC. So make sure that you can follow that so you can actually get a lot of information on tobacco control. And everyone, now we're gonna move on. What have we got on? What have we got after this? Okay, so in line with our promise, otherwise they'll protest against us. So we promise that we have chosen the winners of the door prize who have been really actively participating in this session 1 and session 2 that we've had today. So yes, who is going to be our door prize winners for today? And so okay, are you ready to see who the winners are? Okay, so you can guess will it be you or not, and we want to see your reactions. So we want to see as many reactions as we can. So or you can write it in the chat column here. How sure are you that you won or not? Okay. All right, are you ready? Okay, you got to be ready. Okay, you got to be ready to get your prize, right? Okay. All right. Okay, so we can see here the winner. So the clue is don't forget to screenshot this. Don't forget to take a screenshot if your name is there because we don't have a lot of time here. Okay, so we'll read that out. Okay, the winner for the door prize for the best people asking questions. Salfitri, Permata, Rafri, and then Nadia, Gabriela, Story, and then we have the category of the most active, Yunioldi, Zaki Noval, Ahmad Habibi, Gina Hayati, and also we have the 3 best Instagram stories. Wow, that's really cool. So these are the ones who have been sharing on their Instagram. So you've been sharing about our event here on your Instagram story. So you have also we've appreciated what you're doing and we're giving you a prize. So as this is a clue actually, so you have to be active on social media. Okay, so now we'll go for the best Instagram story. So we have here Putri, and then Chitra Demi Karina, and also SM Habibah. All right, so congratulations for the first category. So make sure if there's your name there on the screen, so make sure that you can take a screenshot of that one. So before the slide changes, so we're going to do a countdown now. Okay, make sure you do a screenshot of this one. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's all good? Okay, great. But I didn't get the name. My name wasn't there. Okay, there's another session as well. There's 10 door prizes. Okay, so this is the door prize winners for the second session. Okay, so this is the category for being the most active in Zoom. Okay, so first of all, we have Jelia Carolina, Fanza, Fabria Marcelo, Foni Lily. And then we have the category for the best Instagram stories. We have at Aninda704, at Ariba _Zahra _ and at AW Bludger. Oh, I think that's my name. Okay. And then also we have the best 3 questions. And so we had those from Clarita from the Southeast Maluku Children's Forum. And also we had from, wow, we can see here that everyone from all over Indonesia is here. So we even have Southeast Maluku there. Oh, wow, this is really amazing. And then we have Zakian Hamza and Bayu Purnama Sari. Okay, congratulations to all of our winners. Let's give them a round of applause. So we really want to appreciate all of those participants who have been really active in asking questions and also responding as well, and also sharing on their Instagram stories. This is just amazing. So this means that you can really, they've proven their initiative here and they've really created the young people. Okay, so congratulations to all of our door prize winners. But I have a question. How do they actually get their prize? So we don't want to just be promising prizes and then they don't get it. Okay, I want to let you know this is how you get a prize. So, okay, everyone, make sure you're paying attention, all right? So this is how you do it. So you need to contact. So privately, so don't chat everyone here, but you need to make sure that you send a private message because you have to provide important information. So please make sure you don't get it wrong. So you can send a private message to Panitia_Elena. So you can send a private chat message. And this is the format, your full name, underscore your organization, underscore your WhatsApp number, and underscore your complete address. So not just like whoever's home it is, but you need to have your complete address. So we need your complete address. So maybe you're from this suburb and whatnot. So we need to have your full address there. And we need your province and also your postcode. Don't forget your postcode, and don't make sure you send a private message in Zoom. And so we have a person there called Panitia at Elena there. So we want to make sure that it's easy that you can actually contact Panitia Elena Amba. Okay, once again, you have to send a private message to Panitia Elena Amba and send your message with your name, your organization, underscore WhatsApp number, underscore complete address with the RT, RW, with the Kelurahan and also the district, sub-district, province, city, and your postcode. And so this is to make sure that it's actually easier for the committee to actually send the door prize to your address. So make sure you can actually send the proof by sending the screenshot, or you can say your name there. And make sure that it's in line with Instagram, for example. Make sure that you put your Instagram username there as well. Okay, so don't despair, everyone who has not yet got their door prize, because there are still door prizes tomorrow as well. And there's still a lot of door prizes left. So don't worry. Just make sure you have to be active and, don't worry about it. You might, if you get chosen or not, it's okay as long as you make the effort. And, it's nothing wrong, right, with sharing about this really cool activity we have, because this is actually really beneficial for all of your followers as well. And so make sure as well that you're following the IYCTC Instagram.id, and make sure you visit the YouTube IYCTC, and the website is also iyctc.co.id. So because there's a lot of really cool things, there's lots of quizzes, there's Instagram Live and so forth. So there's a lot of things that you can get out of that. Okay, and now we did our door prizes for the participants, and now we would like to convey our appreciation to all of those who have organized this summit here today. So we would like to say thank you for the support from the media partners, Posisi, Committee, Yonto, ProHealth, and the 65 community partners.
Wah, itulah tadi ya yang menyebar.
Wow, so that's they're the ones who've been sharing information about the ISYTC, and I've also been taking participation here as a participant and have been active as well. So, and that's really the mission of IYCTC, is sort of creating networks of various different organizations. And we had so many different community partners who came together to actually really make this a success for the summit that we're having here over the next 2 days. Great. Okay, and now we have another tagline. Okay, I want to let you all know that we are at the end of our event here today. Oh, that's so sad. I can't believe it's already the afternoon. Oh my gosh. Okay, but don't be sad, because tomorrow we still have really cool things happening. So we still have a lot of great things happening tomorrow. Okay, I would like to remind you all to come back tomorrow at the Indonesian Youth Summit for Tobacco Control, because tomorrow we're going to have a youth and ideas session. And so we're going to have a lot of young people who are going to be looking at amazing ideas. And so we're going to open Zoom at 8:30 at Jakarta time. And so you can come along to that. And the link will be shared in the WhatsApp group.
Jangan lupa juga
Okay, don't forget also to share all the greatness of the summit here. And I'm Nina and I'm Arya, and we would like to say thank you, and we apologize for any shortcomings. Thank you so much for your attention for the 2022 summit for the first day, and we'll see you again later. And speaking truth to power for the summit for 2022. It's easy, it's inclusive, and it's meaningful. Yay! IYCTC, easy, inclusive, and meaningful. See you again. Bye.
Bye. Yay, 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 yay.